Okay, hello everybody, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of an interview with. Tonight's interview with Minister T. Hatchett or Minister Terry Hatchett. She is the wife of DJ producer Get Loose, Frank Hatchett, and they are the Hatchett Chronicle family. And they are also the owners of our number one sponsor, Untapped Talent Records and Untapped Music Radio. As I just said, I always get tongue tied every time I say it. So we want to say thank you to Minister T. Hatchett for coming on board so we can talk tonight about her book, The Power of God. So everybody give her a clap hand of praise.
Hi.
Okay, so again, as I had already stated, tonight's sponsor will be untappedtalentrecords.com and Untapped Music Radio. So if you're an artist and you're looking for representation with respect to your artistry, if you're looking for beats, if you're looking to rent a recording studio, any of those things, please reach out to DJ Get Loose, aka Frank Hatchett, and his beautiful wife here, Minister Terry Hatchett, at untappedtalentrecords.com for more information. And also, they have a radio station. It's global. When I say global, it is global. It airs. Their airtime is every day, as early as 8 in the morning to as late as 8, 9 o'clock, or 10 o'clock at night. Great music lineup, from music to talk radio. They are there for your listening pleasure. So please definitely tune in every day. And then our other sponsor is Armstrong International Media. She'll be speaking to us a little bit later, and she meaning April J. Armstrong, to learn more about Armstrong International Media. And then I also have an announcement I think I want to go ahead and make tonight with respect to the growth of her wonderful business and how I will be a part of that going forward. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. So anyway, thank you again to everyone who's tuning in. I hope you guys can hear us well on both the YouTube side and the Facebook side. And if you can't, just let us know in the comments. This is pretty interactive. If you've been tuning in for the past couple of interviews, you notice that we always allow time to have a conversation with the guests. And so Minister Hatchett is here to answer any questions that you may have throughout the broadcast. So please feel free to leave her some questions in the comments. And also just remember that when we do this show, we're doing this show because we're shining a light on a creative. We're shining a light on a talented person from different walks of life to discuss the different things they have going on, goods, services that they're providing to the community. And in this case, we have a wonderful book that talks about Minister Hatchett's walk with God, her role as a minister, and how God's power has been very effective in her life from prior to her ministry up until now. So thank you again, Minister T. Hatchett, for being a part of this broadcast tonight.
It is an honor. It is an honor, Eunice. Thank you so much for having me.
You're absolutely welcome. So the first thing I want to ask is, when did you fall in love with the Word of God or with ministry?
You're going to come out deep. When I was little, I lived with my grandmother from, I think, like 1 year old until I was like 10. And in her house, she's from grandmother. I lived with my grandmother and she's the back hills country, like with the small church and everybody goes to church. Everybody knows everybody. And if you don't go to church, then you're a heathen. She's from that type. And so I had to go to church every Sunday. And when I didn't go to church, I had this big old Bible, like an encyclopedia, that I had to read. And so because of that, that was my first, and I got baptized in that church. And so that was my first memory of God. But that's not where I fell in love with God. I believe because that's what I was supposed to do. And I don't even think it was a belief. I just did what I was supposed to do. And then when I moved back with my mom, she gave us she let us have our own mind. I have went to Arabic school. I actually went to Arabic school because my sister went. And so
Wow.
I was following her. And so I went to Arabic school, and honestly, I learned Abata. That's ABC. I can't remember anything. I don't know what I learned. I've also studied with Jehovah Witnesses. So it was, my mother allowed us to find our own faith. But my mother was a Christian. She was
Okay.
never one to be in church all the time, but she was a Christian. She believed in God. So I did what she did. And it was not until after she passed away, because that hit me, that was the hardest thing in my life, losing my mother. And
Mhm.
so for me, it was like, well, there must not be a God, because, I prayed to him to save my mom, and he didn't do it. So he can't be real, because if he was real, he would know that was the most important thing in my world. And so
Mhm.
it was not until my tribes and tribulations and the things I went through in life that I had to sit back and really hear him. He was talking to me all along. I just was ignoring him. And when I look back on it now, I realize that everything that I went through, he was there to save my life. It had to be nobody but him to save. Some of the things that I did was just undeniable, that there had to be a greater power saving my life, because I did a lot of crazy things that I should not have been doing. Um,
Mhm.
and he saved my life. And then I just started hearing him. I think that when I actually started list being obedient, I would say, because I was hearing him, but I wasn't being obedient. I had moved to Georgia, and Georgia is a little fast. They're different. You don't know who is what down here. It's a lot. And I decided to become celibate. And during my stage that I was celibate, God spoke to me a lot and gave me a lot of information. And that's when I started being obedient. I think I started to follow him. And I was a minister at this time, mind you. I had been a minister for 9 years before I really started to be obedient. I was
Mhm.
straddling the fence with him, and I was challenging him, and I was saying, well, how come you're not doing this? And how come you're not doing that? Because I don't, no offense to the pastors that teach or ordain you, but some of them are not preaching what we need to hear. What really
Mhm.
brings us to, when it's time to be saved, you're told, all you got to do is come to God, be saved, confess with your mouth and believe in your heart that you'll be saved. And you get the idea, or I had the idea, that there goes my trials and tribulations. I won't have no more trials and tribulations, all I got to
Mhm.
do is be saved. And so you become saved, and when your first trial and tribulation hit after being saved, you're like, whoa, wait a minute. But I'm saved. I'm doing everything right. I'm going to church. I'm not stealing. I'm not lying. All my old ways are out the window. But I just got hit with something. And so
Yeah.
what I learned is that John 10:10, the thief cometh not but to kill, to steal, and to destroy. But I come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly. And what that
Mhm.
means to me is that we're going to have trials and tribulations. God said, he told us in John 10:10, the enemy is coming. There's no way around it. He's coming. But I am already here. And I'm here to fight your battles. I'm here to make sure that you survive this, that you be all right. I'm standing in front of you, ready and waiting. And
Mhm.
that's what I had to learn. And I did not learn that until, I think, I moved to Georgia in 2012. That's when I began my journey with God, and I had a real relationship with him, and I started to listen to him, and I started to be obedient to him. And then he took me back to make me realize that, he was there all along. I didn't acknowledge him. And then when I wrote the book, that's when I was, he had me look hook, line, and sinker.
Well, the book was a very interesting, a very easy read, and it took us through your life. The book is called The Power of God. She wrote this book, you said back in 2019 or so, is that right? Or it
Yeah,
was available?
2018, 2019.
Yeah, and reading the book, when I was reading through your book, I was like, oh wow, talk about going through some trials and tribulations. And I was like, woo, how did you get through some of the things that you went through at that time during those times of trials? You just expressed some of this, but did you really feel that God was with you during those? Because so first of all, there was one incident where your little pregnant self decided that he was going to go through some stuff. I was like, now wait a minute, she was gangster. Wait a second here. And I was like, God had to be with you, honey, that day. I really believe you. I said, I don't know how in the world she got through all that, but okay. I said, oh my gosh. And then, the what you had to endure during which I believe was your first marriage. Wow, that was tough. That was a tough
And
experience.
during that time, God was tapping on my shoulder and say, "Hey, I'm here. Hey, all you got to do is come to me." And I was like, "No, because I don't trust you. You
Mhm.
took my mom away." And so at that time, I did not know it was God. I didn't know that it was God until 2012. God, when I went through being celibate, and we always talk about celibacy, and people think of celibacy, yeah, it's about the abstaining from sex, but celibacy is so much more than that. It is
Can you
really,
elaborate on that for us? Yeah.
yes, it is really a cleansing. It was like, and I don't know about how old people are, but anybody who ever seen the movie, it's an old movie. It's called The Trial of Billy Jack. And in that movie, yeah, it's real old. I was young when I saw it. He had to go through, he was on Indian territory, and he had to go through this cave to prove himself worthy. And in that cave was snakes and all kinds of dangers in that cave. But it was like a walk through his life. And that's what celibacy did for me. When I was
Mhm.
abstaining, it was cleansing me. I went through a walk of my life. I went deep down and saw some things in myself that wasn't so pretty.
Mhm.
Those things that you try to act like not there, but it was me. So I had to face all those things. And in facing, my relationship during that time grew with God. And I didn't even, to be honest with you, as strange as it sounds, even during that time, I didn't realize how deep it was. I did not realize how deep it was until I was listening to God, but not all the way. So he told me I got sick. I'm allergic to everything under the sun. And I got sick. I went to the hospital, and the doctor gave me antibiotics. I did not know I was allergic to antibiotics.
Mhm.
And I was taking the antibiotics, and it almost killed me. I
Oh,
laid there. I was weak. My eyes was red as blood, and until my friend took me back to the hospital and found out I was allergic to the antibiotics. But
wow.
God told me, okay, now I want you to go back to um, Rhode Island, because that's where my sister was at the time. Go get
Mhm.
her and go back to Virginia. So I did. So soon as he told me that, it was like, I don't have any money. How am I going to do this? But okay, this is what you told me to do. The day after he told me that, my sister called me and said she was sick and having surgery, and she needed somebody up there with her. So that was my confirmation to go to Rhode Island. When I got
Mhm.
to Rhode Island, I told her what God told me. He told me that we weren't going to stay there. We were only there for a little while, and then we were going to go back to Virginia. So I told her I did everything that he told me to do. But once I got back in Virginia, I started slipping again.
Okay.
And I started to go back into kind of my old ways, because I was back home. I had stopped smoking cigarettes. I had went through this whole change, and then I went back to my old stomping ground, and I sort of went back into everything. So during that time, my sister and I had a house, but then we let the house go. and I was in my car, and it was like getting close to September. I had been in my car all summer long, and it was getting close to September, and I don't like the cold. I'm not. I can't deal with the cold. So I
Me
was sitting in my
neither.
car. Yeah. So I was sitting in my car, and I was thinking, Lord, it's almost wintertime, and I haven't found a place. I don't have a job. What am I gonna do? I'm in my car. I don't want to be in my car for my cold for the wintertime. And then something hit me. It just hit me, and I was like, you know what? You're trying to teach me something. I don't know what you're trying to teach me. In this car, even if it means staying in this car during the wintertime until I learn what you're trying to teach me. Here I am, teach me. And if that's what it takes, if it takes me to be in this car in the cold in the winter, then that's what I'm going to be. And at that point, it just, I don't know, something just snapped in me and said, okay, well, here's what I'm going to do. And this girl that I had never met in my life, her cousin, I used to date her cousin way back when I was young. He called me, and I thought he was calling me just to try to talk to me because I knew he was married then, and I had talked to him before. And I had an attitude about it. I was like, "Why are you calling me?" And he was like, "I want you to help my cousin. My cousin needs somebody. I know you're in the music business. My cousin needs some help." And that made me mad because it was like, man, I can't help your cousin. I can't help myself. I'm in my car. He was like, well, just talk to her. Can I just introduce you to her? And then when you get it together, you can call it back. And I was like, what in the world? And then I knew it was something from God. So I said, okay, God, you playing tricks on me. You want to play. All right. So I'm going to listen. All right. I'll talk to your cousin. So he called, he did a 3-way. I talked to his cousin. And then he was like, okay, well, you got the number. Bye. And he hung up. And I was like, what in the world? She called me right back. This girl talked to me for 3 hours. I did not know her.
Mm-hmm.
But we ended up in a 3-hour conversation. I ended up telling her that I was in the car. And I don't usually share my business with people like that. And I'm not a people person. And so it was like I was talking to her. We were talking about God and everything. And I finally said to her, listen, I can't help you because I'm in my car. I'm going through a bad time right now. So I'm going to refer you to somebody. I will try to get somebody to help you. And she said to me, no, you're my manager. God told me that you're my manager and you're going to be my manager. And it's all right. We're going to do it together. It's all right. And when I tell you I didn't know this girl, never met her, never, to this day, I haven't laid eyes on her.
Oh, wow.
And she was just like, you're my manager. And in my head, I was thinking, how am I going to be her manager? I'm in a car and she don't even know me. And so, but I was like, okay, God, all right, all right, I'm your manager. And I said, well, let me call you back. Let me call a couple of people and see what I can do. And I'll listen to your music and we'll see what we can do. So the first person I thought about calling was Frank, my husband, because I had met him, or I thought I had met him down here, because my brother-in-law and him, he's the godfather of my brother-in-law's daughter, my niece. So he became my go-to DJ, go-to producer. But I had other producers that I worked with, but because I met him and I liked his work, I was calling him. By this time, he was back in New Jersey. So I called him up. He was like, hey, Auntie. That's a whole nother story. But he was like, hey, Auntie, what's up? And I said, I have this girl. She is asking me to manage her. She got some music. I need a producer. He was like, sure, no problem. Send me the music. I'll do it. So I was like, okay. But this girl kept bugging me. She was calling me like every day. She would text me like, the text would be no less than 5 texts. Like the paragraphs would be like 5 paragraphs long. And she was just like on me. Like I didn't know her like that, but she kept like She would not let me be, in other words, you know. And so
Mhm.
I knew that had to be something with God, but I was like, God, really? Did you have to send somebody like this? Because she was persistent. And so then I was like, well, somebody like this, I'm going to need a producer that's in Virginia because I can't afford to get to New Jersey. I can't even right now. I'm in my car. So I was like, let me call another producer. I'll just let him go. I fired him and he didn't even know he was fired. I fired him and I said, and I called another producer and I said to him, I said, I have someone who got some music. Will you be my producer? And he was like, sure, no problem. But when we set up a conference call, he didn't show up for the conference call, which anybody who knows how I do business, I don't half step when I'm a totally different person when it comes to business. I don't play.
Mhm.
I'm on it. I want you to be on it, and I don't deal with anybody that half step. So
Right.
that kind of made me back up because he made me look bad. He made himself look bad. You know, I just don't do business that way. So I had to go back to Frank. When I called him back, he didn't even know he was fired. I was like, well, and I was talking to him like I had put him down. He was like, oh, sure, I've been working on it. And I was like, you have? And he was like, yeah, I got it for you. I've been working on it. I was like, oh, okay. So I never told him he was fired. I just was like, okay, well, I'm coming to New Jersey to see about the music. And through that, suddenly things just opened up for me. I got a place to live, I got an apartment, and I just kept on walking with God and just kept on talking to Him and just kept on, okay, you want me to do this? Okay, I'm gonna do this. Okay, you want me to do this? I'm gonna do this. Instead of before, it was more like, oh, you want me to do that? I ain't gonna do that. They don't know me. How I'm gonna do that? But this time it was like, okay, that's what you want me to do. Okay, I'm gonna do this. Okay, you tell me to do that. Okay, I'm gonna do that. And the more I walked with him and the more I was obedient with him, the more I went to a higher level. And I'm not talking about like material gain. I'm talking about a spiritual and a joy that can't nobody take away from me. I went
Wow.
to a level that my husband called me and said, and at the time I never even, I was liking him, but I didn't know he liked me. And
Mhm.
so he called me out of the blue because I went back to school and to get my master's. So I was like stepping up. And he called me one day when I was taking a quiz and said, God told me you was gonna be my wife. And I was like, well, God ain't tell me that. And so then I had to do something else, go to a next step with God. I've never talked to God about a man. I to this day I don't believe that a woman should pray to God for about a man, because the Bible says when a husband will leave his mother and father and cling to a wife, that means that the husband is his a man's responsibility to find a woman, not a woman's responsibility to find a man. However,
Mhm.
I didn't know about confirming with God. Now,
Mhm.
I do believe you're not supposed to pray for a man, but I do believe we're supposed to confirm with God.
Mhm.
And so for the first time, with something that was taboo to me, talk to God about a man, I had to do, because my husband said to me, well, I don't know what to tell you. All I can tell you is pray on it. And one night I was feeling filled up and I got down on my knees and I said, okay, God, I want to talk to you about a man.
Mhm.
And listen, if this man be for me, then you need to show me in a big sign, because I don't do well with just like little hints. You got to show me. And
Okay.
I prayed all the way up until we got married. God, if this man be for me, if I'm doing something wrong, if he's not for me, then show me, take him away from me, give me a sign. And the next morning, when I woke up, the first time I prayed about him, the next morning I woke up. Before I opened my eyes, God spoke to me and he said, what man has put together, what God has put together, let no man break apart. And I just knew in my soul that was my answer. I was supposed to marry him. So when he called me, I said yes. I said, I'll marry you, because God did confirm it. And I just, from that point on, just listening to God. And it was when I tell you the last 3 years is when I came into my own with God, when
Mhm.
I know that is my Father, and I'm gonna pray about everything and worry about nothing. But it was the last 3 years that He had to take me through what He took me to for me to realize. And when I wrote the book, I look back at all that stuff that I did, and I was like, it was there all along. And I didn't even know it because He even told me to write the book. I never thought of myself as an author or a book or a writer. It was like He
Uh-huh.
woke me up 3:30 in the morning and said, I want you to write this book. And I said, I'm not getting up. It's 3:30 in the morning. I don't have my laptop was broke. And he was like, I was like, okay, tomorrow, I'll get up tomorrow. And he was like, no, get up now. And he kept bugging me and he kept bugging me. And I got up and I sat in front. I went into the studio, my husband's studio, sat in front of his computer with my arms folded, mad. I was mad, and I was like, "All right, you want me to write this book? Then you're gonna have to guide my fingers, tell me what to write, and I'll write it."
And that's the
And
power of God.
that's the power of the God. That book came from God. Everything that I wrote, I said, "God, tell me what to write, and I'll write."
Speaking of, there was one piece in the book that I wanted you to talk about because I've done the same thing you've done where um he just put a story in me and it was like,
Mhm.
okay, I want you to write this story. I want you to write this play or whatever. And literally I promise you, I felt like he just took control of me and did all the writing. Half the stuff that I was putting on paper, I'm like, I would have never thought to think of anything like that. So
Exactly.
I figured he definitely was with you guys when you said you had to, visit with your sisters. When this was during your marriage, the first marriage, and you talked about 6 hour deprogramming.
Oh,
I wanted you to elaborate a little bit about that because I said that should be a book by itself.
yes. my my marriage with my husband was not based off of anything that it should have been based off. Matter of fact, we probably should not have been married. Um, I knew him from when before my mother passed away, and it, if my mother had been alive, I probably wouldn't have been married to her.
Hmm.
And it was a lot of turmoil. It was a lot of, last night we talked about being an emotional hostage. I was
Yeah.
emotionally abused and did not even really, and I consider myself a very strong person. I come from strong people. My mother was the head of her household, you know, but even the strong can get caught up because at the time that we got together, my mother had passed and I was doing a lot of crazy things. And so at the time that we connected, he was doing crazy things and I was doing crazy things. So it seemed like a perfect pair. But when at some point, I grew up. At some point, I started to change. At some point, I started to hear God, and He didn't. And so I was still with him because I had kids. We had a bunch of kids. He had taken me from everybody that I had known, and I was in a state that it was just me and him and the kids, and I didn't have nobody close to me, no family members. And
Hmm.
so when I started to come out of that, I don't know what you call it, that emotional hostage that he had me in.
Hmm.
Um, and when God was speaking to me, I was like, I miss my family, God. I want to see my family. And that's at that point, my sister had called and said there was a family reunion. So we connected. And I think my sister saw something. My sister Ann is a pessimist. My sister Valerie is an optimist. So Valerie saw something. This is the only way that I know it was God, but this is the only way when I look back on it, I can understand it. I think that Valerie saw something that was the right time to do a deprogram.
Got
Because
you.
why would you do it at any time? I mean, they never ever called, and it was never ever a thing before. This was just happened. So I know it was God, but it was like Valerie saw something that knew that, okay, we're going to have to deprogram her and bring her back to that strong person that our mothers raised us to be. Our mother raised us to be, because I wasn't that person. I had tried to leave him before, always went back, and it was always about him. It was always about how he feels or what he wanted, because he would always use the kids. It was like, well, if you do this, you're hurting the kids. If you do that, so it was
Mhm.
always about the kids. So that's what helped me. And when they did that 6 hour the deprogramming that I call it, I
Mhm.
literally in my head, they didn't know it at the time, but my whole life was like reeling in front of me while they were talking to me. So that's really what did it. And the fact that my sister Ann said, well, she ain't gonna leave anyway. And see, I'm the child. You can't tell me I've always been the strong-willed child. Don't tell me what I'm not gonna do. That makes me mad because I'm gonna do it just to spite you. So that really is what snapped me, and I was determined to prove. It was more about proving my sister wrong.
Yeah, got you. Look, there was a method to their madness. It appeared
Yeah,
with that 6 hour deprogram. I like that. I was thinking to myself, I said, that sounds like a book by itself. A book that could help people, help deliver people by itself. Well, everybody, we are on with Minister T. Hatchett, and we're here tonight talking about her book, The Power of God. We're going to go to a sponsor really quickly, but in the meantime, if you have any questions for Minister T. Hatchett, please drop them in the comments, and we will definitely try to capture all of your comments and questions. So right now, we're going to go to our sponsor, Armstrong International Media. Oh, okay, I got this thing in the way as usual. A social media and marketing company. We also offer services in voiceover, graphic design, commercial development, and podcast production. Start your day speaking out loud and whisper into the evening. Conversations on relationships to catch a one-man, one-woman feature. Healed through testimony and poetry. AIM is where you can find affordable packages for you to invest in your brand or your business. Follow, subscribe, like, share, and AIM for the culture, for the collective. And once again, thank you so much to Poetess April J. Armstrong, the leader of AIM. It's for the culture, for the collective. If you're looking for any type of representation or branding, anything that'll help you and your business grow, please reach out to Poetess April J. Armstrong. All right, guys, we are back. And we're back again with Minister T. Hatchett. Let's go to the comments really quickly, Minister Hatchett. Let's see. I'm going all the way back. I'm on the Facebook side, guys. So thank you again for everybody tuning in. Saying hello to your sister Valerie. And I don't know, can you see the comments as well?
yeah, I see.
Good.
My
Okay.
husband says he has a question. He wants to know if he could have a kiss. You can have one later.
Okay. She can at least send you a virtual hug or something right now, right?
Look, Eunice.
She can send you a virtual hug. All right. On the YouTube side, hello to my friend Nikay and hello to Sandra Bowles. Hi there.
Hi,
That's
Ma.
That's mom to Minister Terry, and I'm going to say auntie from myself. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And back on the Facebook side, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Let's see. We have Cousin Frank and Poetess April J. Armstrong. As usual, thank you so much for being there. I see Cousin Valerie up here.
Listen,
And
I gotta say, April is also a graphic artist, and she is like the best. Okay,
yes,
I'm
she
gonna say
is
she's
the best.
the best. Okay.
Yeah, she is the best. She is the best. DJ Bilal, thank you for tuning in. And that's it. Anybody have any questions for Minister Hatchett before we continue on? Any more questions? Okay, so I have a question for you. All
Okay.
right. So we talked about you talked a lot about your transition from being in a very dark space in your life, and especially after your mom passed. And of course, that hit near and dear for me myself because I lost my mom 3 years ago, and you lost your mother at a much younger age. I can only imagine what life was like at the time. You know, you feeling lost. It's like, okay, well, who do I turn to now that she's no longer here? And then you had to navigate life the rest of your way, pretty much on your own. Um, when I'm trying to remember in the book. I know you came across a minister who, while you was married, introduced herself to you and your family and invited you guys to come to church. Was it at that time you began to maybe feel God's hand moving in your life to where He was able to help fill that void that you lacked, that created that darkness? After you losing your mom, you had to go through this whole thing, and do you think that was the beginning for you of being able to have him put people in place to help bring you to him?
I definitely believe that he brought her to us because my husband was a very mean man. He didn't let nobody in the yard or nothing. And she actually was in the yard laughing and talking to him. And
Mm-hmm.
so I knew that was God because it was a dream that actually started me. I would have dreams about my mom all the time. I didn't know that was God calling me at the time, but
Mm-hmm.
now I know it was God calling me. But in the form of my mom, and I had a dream about a car accident, which I actually had the car accident. But
Mm-hmm.
beforehand, I had a dream about the car accident, and I was in the kitchen cleaning, and I was talking to God. I was listening to gospel music, and I was talking to God because I really still at that moment I really wasn't. I was kind of listening to him, but I didn't really believe he could do all the things that he was saying that he was going to do. It was just like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I hear you. How you going to deal with this? I'm with my husband, and and at the time, I also still had that idea of what they teach you about. You're supposed to stay married. You're not,
Yeah.
divorce is a sin. So I had the half truth of God and His Word. And so I was talking to him about that. I really didn't want to leave my husband because that was my security, but I wanted things to change. And at
Mm-hmm.
that point is when I heard her, and she was the first step to me saying, okay, there's something wrong. I'm not doing something right, and I can't do this by myself. And I'm going to have to give up a little power in order to be happy. So she was the first step, and I don't know that if she I haven't seen her since that time in South Carolina, but
Mm-hmm.
she did open a door.
Mm-hmm.
She did open the door, and I think it was God leading her. I really believe God was leading her because the things that she said to me and me going to church, she wouldn't have known. She couldn't have known.
Got you.
So yeah, she was the stepping stone.
Your sister asked a question, and the question is, oh, and hi, Carla. Hi, glad you're on board. Valerie, she asked, what was the hardest thing to overcome? And I'm just going to let you answer that. What was the hardest thing to overcome with your walk?
Listening to him and knowing that it's not about you, boo, which means it's not about me. That's what I say now. And that to listen to him, to be obedient in everything, to pray about everything. That was hardest because he would tell me some things to do that was like, what? Like when I was living here in Georgia, I met this young pastor, and his at the time she was just his fiance, and he hired me. I didn't have a job, and he hired me. And the job that he was working on when he hired me was taking him through some changes, and they ended up firing him, which wasn't his fault, but they ended up letting him go.
Mm-hmm.
And God told me to tell him when he started another job, and God told me to tell him to quit that job and do his own thing because he had the power to do his own thing. Now
Wow.
I only knew that man like 6 months, okay?
Mhm.
And so he helped me out by giving me a job, okay? So
Okay.
who am I to go tell this man that's get ready to get married to quit that job and do his own thing? Because that's what God said. And so for me, it was like, oh no, I'm not gonna do that. That's look crazy. He gonna think I'm crazy. What ended up happening is I fasted for a week. And at the end of the week, I got a phone call from one of because I was his direct assistant director for a TV program we were doing. And so
Mhm.
I got a phone call from one of the actors, and she was like complaining about what was going on. And I had to call him and talk to him about it. And while I was on the phone for him, God said, okay, now the time for you to tell him. I gave you that week, you done fasted. Now you have to tell him what I told you to tell him. So I ended up telling him, and he started bawling, crying on the phone with me.
Mhm.
And he told me that the day before, he had just took out his script and he thought about going and doing his own thing, but he didn't want to. He had hired 3 of us, and he was worried about us because he had hired us, and all of a sudden he gonna start a business of his own. He didn't want to look, unstable, and he was worried about our well-being. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm gonna follow you because God told me to. And he
Mhm.
just was like bawling, crying. And I was like, oh. One time when my sister and I came back from Rhode Island, we moved back. I met this lady in the store, and I thought she was prejudiced. And my sister was like, no, she was just, something must be going on with her. And I was like, well, God told me to go back and pray for her. Now, she was working at the store. And
Mhm.
I was like, I can't go pray for her because, she working and, they got a thing about you, religions and your job and stuff. I
Oh
was like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
do
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And my sister Val was like, well, I don't know what you're going to do, but yeah, God told me to do something. I'm going to do it. And so I ended up going back and finding her and praying for her. And she started crying and saying, I was praying to God today for an answer. And here you come. And
Mhm.
I was like, wow. And so to listen to, because he never gave me anything easy to do. You know what I'm saying? Everything that he told me to do seemed ridiculous and out of the question. And so I would always, that it was hard. It was very hard for me to be obedient, especially if I was going through something myself. And so I think that was the hardest thing to overcome, to learn how to be
Just
obedient.
yeah, I can definitely understand, and I can only imagine. You had let's see, it was a song I think you opened up with your book, and then throughout the book you talked about Kurt Carr. Um,
Yeah.
oh my God, what's the name of the song again?
I almost
Almost
let
Let
go.
Go.
Hmm.
That song is a beautiful song, and I can tell you through my walk, as I was trying to, get my little self together through my trials and tribulations. I remember that song, and that song was a blessing because it's like, and like my friend had once told me, he said, don't give up 5 minutes before the blessing, 5 minutes before the miracle. And that's what that song reminds me of a lot. I noticed that, you've written you've had those miracle moments. Your story, The Power of God, talks a lot about her having those miracle moments. And it's times when you're right at that moment, somehow the door opens. So when you're talking about, for instance, ministering to that woman, or you're talking about the time when this minister comes through and she helps, guide you along the way, or then there's other folks. I just think that is definitely, those are definitely examples of the power of God in someone's life. Did you
But
want to
yeah,
elaborate more on that?
it is. What's funny is that while I was going through it, I didn't even recognize it. It took the book, it took these last 3 years for me to say, hey, daddy, it's like, hey, okay, daddy, I get it. I was a very slow learner, and it took me 50 years or 50 something years to just say, hey, okay, I get it. He took me through all of that, and I did not even realize it. I mean, by the time I got to the point where I had came back to Virginia, I was falling into place and I was getting it, but I still was teeter-totter. I still, when things hit me, I still was like, oh, this happened. Well, what's going to happen? What I'm going to do? I still had that, oh, Lord moment. It actually wasn't until we made the move back to Georgia that it was like, well, you know what, Lord? I give. I give because guess what? You have showed me there's nothing. God is infallible. So he's incapable of making a mistake. So when he tells you something, no matter what it looks like, if he tells you, that's a guarantee. It's a guarantee. You don't get that in this world. God is a guarantee. And he showed me when our family, because moving down here, he had told us, he had placed on our heart, we were supposed to move down here. And me and my husband, at the time, we believed in God and everything, but we was like, okay, God, we gonna move to Georgia, but let's go here first and see this. And okay, God, well, we gonna move, but we don't want to leave this person. We want to see this person. And we did a lot of doing other things besides moving where God told us to. And then it was like, well, God, we don't got no money. How we gonna move down there? Well, let's work and get some money, and then we'll move down here. And everything that we did, we ended up homeless. We ended up homeless. And then it was like we looked at each other and was like, you know what? We're going to do what God said. God said to move to Georgia. And we didn't. We moved to Georgia with limited everything. We didn't have, it took me 2 weeks to find a place, by the way. And I found the place. We moved down here with one of the Chase, the day bed mattress.
Yeah.
And maybe a couple of chairs and stuff and our clothes. We had no furniture. We had the car, it made it, but we didn't have nothing when we moved down here. And within a month, we got so much furniture in the house that we can't even move around. We got
have room enough to receive it, as they say in the Bible.
And so it's like, okay, God. And then just last year, and I say this because it's like something I've been thinking about lately. Last year, we went through some problems with the heating system and the landlord, and we would wake up and wonder how we was going to eat. This year, we got so much food. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to give Christmas boxes to the less fortunate. We got so much food that I can't even fit it in a cabinet. I have boxes under my kitchen table with food in it.
Yeah, it's a blessing. That's a blessing. Well, that's that God. Right there, the power of God.
That's
that right
God. There. Yeah. That is God.
Well, Sandra says to get you to move out of your comfort zone.
Exactly, Mom.
What is it? Get you to move out of your comfort zone. And then your hubby asks, what is the best part about being obedient in our marriage?
The best part of being obedient in our marriage is that there is no, my husband, when I say I have a perfect husband, but let me explain that, because people say there's no such thing as perfect. Okay, well, my thinking is it is, because why is there a word if it is no such thing? My husband is perfect to me. Yeah, my logic is a little strange, but that's my logic. My husband is perfect to me. And because he fulfills all my needs. And what that is through obedience to God, because my husband is my God gift. And so because I was obedient to God, which is something he told me before we got married, he said, if we be obedient to God, everything's going to be all right. And through being obedience to God, I have a wonderful marriage. I have a perfect marriage. I have a wonderful husband who keeps a smile on my face, even when he's getting on my nerves. And that's the wonderful thing about being obedient when you're married, because that's what God will give.
That is awesome. So people have definitely, hey, James. James says, yes, indeed. And hi, Stevie. Stevie Guy. Don't forget, Stevie Guy has a wonderful EP out. I'm just throwing everything up in here.
Oh
But you
yeah,
guys call it, you call it shameless
gotta get
plugs.
that EP.
He
Gotta
still
get
has,
Love Search.
yeah, you gotta get Love Search. Stevie was on with us a couple weeks back, and we talked about his music. So and future projects. So he's on board. So hi, Stevie, and I hope everything is going well with your Love Search.
And everybody who does TikTok, we just got to TikTok, but Steve is on TikTok Wednesdays and Sundays. Steve, tell me if I'm right. Wednesday and Sundays, he's on TikTok, and he plays that good old R&B, that old school R&B, and he also sings. So you get double the enjoyment.
Yeah, yeah, and we just had a good time with him on the show, on an interview with a few weeks back, where he was had a little game playing, a little music game playing. We just had a great time. But you guys should know, Terry wears a lot of hats. Minister Terry wears a lot of hats, and one is management, and she's also helping with production with her husband DJ Get Loose. They were the ones that helped him with this project and getting it out there. So if you want to get a copy of his music, you can go to untappedtalentrecords.com. Did I say it right?
www, yep,
Yay.
untappedtalentrecords.com. Or you can reach out through Facebook or for those who have the number, text, and I have hard copies. And or you can go on your favorite streaming sites. Amazon is the one that we usually call out because that's the best one. But if you Spotify, whatever you are, you can get his Love EP, Love Search, and you might as well get it now because he get ready to come out with another one. So you
Yeah, yeah, I can't wait. That is so good. So yeah, we had to shout you out, Stevie. And then also, I'm looking down the list and I see Arthur James Rodman is on board with us. Remember, he has his book, My Butterfly. He was my very first
Excellent
interview.
book.
So if
Excellent
you're
book.
looking, it's an excellent book, an excellent read. If you're looking for a good read about a relationship from a man's point of view, definitely want to get that book. And you can catch him at arthurjamesrodman.com. And I hope I said that right, James. And then tell everybody, Terry, how they can get your book, The Power of God. Before you do that, though, can you tell me what surprised you about writing the book really quickly? And then if you can tell everybody how to get your book.
What surprised me about writing it that I wrote it. I am not. When I tell you I'm not Arthur material, I thought I wasn't, but God then took me to. Now I got about 4 or 5 books I'm about to write. So, but that I wrote it, and the fact that everything in the book I questioned. I questioned God about everything in the book, and I was like, "Well, should I put this in there? And should I do this? And well, what? How I'm gonna get it out there?" And God told me to write that book just as it is. Don't worry about it's not for fame or fortune. It's just because it was going to help somebody. And so I did exactly what he said to do, and I put it out there. Just I did the graphics for it and everything, and I just put it out there.
I'm telling you, I was very, shocked as I was reading some of the things in the book. Shocked meaning that I was very, I appreciate people who are very transparent, and you shared things that happened in your marriage that resulted in the loss of life, for instance, because your themes cover a lot of things from abortion to, marriage, abuse, domestic violence, a little bit of everything. Things that probably should have landed you in jail, for instance. A lot of stuff that you found yourself, you had no problem, like, well, gotta put this out there. But
I didn't do it. God did it. I didn't.
God did it, yeah.
When he told me to, and I was like, God, can I get in trouble for this? And
I was wondering too. I said that, but that's okay. It's a good read. I'm telling you, you get to see if you get this book, or when you get The Power of God, you're going to see how God's power was with this woman from the time she probably could remember, and him using her life as a testimony to help people along the way. This book, your life was not an accident. The experiences that you had gone through were no accidents, and it led you to your initial sermon, if you will, and then you're continuing on. And then even today, here you are, you're a minister. You have your Minister T. Hatchett sermons every Sunday morning, and that's on your YouTube page. Am I right?
It's YouTube and Facebook Live. It's every Sunday morning worship with Minister T. Hatchett at 9 a.m. And that is also something that God told me to do, that I was, like I said, now I don't argue with him. I just do it. But it was like, I really don't want to be in the camera. I don't really want to get up at 9. As a matter of fact, I said I didn't want to get up at 9 o'clock, and he reminded me. He convicted me because he said, "I wake you up," you know, and so
Yeah.
and so it was like, okay, enough said. I'll be there 9 o'clock in the morning doing the sermon because hey, he does wake me up. So
All right, and that's one of the many powers. His we get to see his power demonstrated in your life. You want to tell them everything else you're doing, the Hatchett Chronicles, and any upcoming writings, stories, books we
yeah.
have. She's doing a lot, y'all. She is doing a lot.
Okay, so I help small businesses get up and running. I can get you your EIN or to help you to get your EIN. Explain some things, the difference between partnership, sole proprietorship, LLC, incorporation, stuff like that. Um, I create and negotiate contracts, and I started that because when I moved to Virginia. I'm from Jersey, so in Jersey, it's just your word and a handshake, and that's good. But that don't work
Mhm.
in every state. So I had to learn about contracts, and I decided that the best way to do it was to learn myself. And so now I can create and negotiate contracts, or just create the contract, depending on what you need.
Mhm.
My husband and I have Untapped Talent Recordings, which is our record label. We have a few artists on that. Steve is one of our artists.
Mhm.
Love Search came out under Untapped Talent Recordings. And we have the radio station, Untapped Music Radio. That was also God because that came during the pandemic when I wasn't working and my husband started DJing. He pulled his DJ out of the hat after 40 or 30 years. And so we decided wouldn't it be a good idea to put the DJs, the whack DJs, his guys on the radio, and that's how the radio station came up.
Mhm.
Also JG Hatchett Entertainment LLC is the mother company that we started when we first got together, and all the other companies are under that company.
Mhm.
That's like a one-stop shop for entertainment.
Right.
Um, and I am writing. I have, believe it or not, 6 books that God has given me to write. And that was after I'm in the midst of finishing up From My Rib, that's a co-author with my husband.
Mhm.
I also wrote a chapter in. My sister got 15 authors together to write the Corona Chronicles, and I was one of the 15 authors
Mhm.
to write a chapter in the Corona Chronicles. So I am actually, I guess I'm a writer now.
That's just the power of God. What do you
Exactly.
want? What do you want to take? What is the takeaway for our readers regarding the power of God? Your book.
That even when you think God is not there or not listening, or even if you don't believe in God, because the first beginning of the book, as you can see, I didn't even believe. After my mom died, I didn't believe in God, but He was still there with me, even when I didn't believe. He was there. I take away from life. Period. You need God, especially in this days and time. And
Yeah.
He, like I said, He's a guarantee. There is no other guarantee in life. He is a guarantee. And I should not be here. Honestly, I should not be here. And I'm here, but I'm here because he has me here. And
Mhm.
so, listen, it's as plain as it, period.
Mhm. Well, we want to thank you so much, Minister T. Hatchett, for coming on an interview with to talk about your book, your wonderful book, The Power of God. And it can be purchased. I have here at untappedtalentrecords.com. Am I correct?
Yeah. Or you can text me or my husband or anything like that, but you can just go to the website and drop a contact, say you want to purchase it. It's $15 and $3 shipping and handling.
Okay. All right. Well, we want to thank everybody for tuning in, as always, for supporting an interview with. And again, we're here to shine the spotlight on wonderful creatives and allowing them to share their wonderful works with the community. And in this case, we have the power of God and a whole list of other stuff because Minister Hatcher, she wears a lot of hats. So our tonight's show again was sponsored by Untapped Talent Records.com and untappedmusicradio.com. So for everybody out there who are artists and you're looking for representation, music representation and management, you're looking for beats, you're looking to rent some studio time, you need to get with these folks, the Hatchets. And again, you can reach them at untappedtalentrecords.com for more information. And don't forget, they have this wonderful radio station, which is global. I must say that it's global programming, music and talk radio every day from 8 a.m. to as late as 8 to 10 p.m. at night, every day. Great lineup, great music lineup, great talk radio, great everything. Ministry on Sunday mornings with Minister Hatchett's program. And this program, too, airs on Untapped Music Radio every Wednesday at 3:30. And Minister Hatchett does her Sunday morning worship. Sunday mornings, you mentioned at 9 o'clock. Is that right?
Yes, and on the radio, there's a audio replay on Sundays at 8 a.m.
Okay, that's correct. And the same as this show. This show airs as an audio on Wednesdays at 3:30. All right. And then we also want to thank our other sponsor, Poetess April J. Armstrong she is AIM. She's Armstrong International Media, and she can provide you with some wonderful social connectivity, media networking, blogging, branding, graphics, you name it, she can put you down. And I was going to share something really quick. I think the best way to have that shared is to have you explain how we are connected with Armstrong International Media forthcoming. So do you want to kind of like tell our involvement?
Okay, so
explain it a little bit better.
Miss Superwoman April J.
Yes.
She is just and we will be putting out her single soon too, and then following her single, she will have her EP out. But she has her media, her station, and so we all will be transferring over. We still will be on the Facebook or the YouTube, but we also going to be transferring over to Roku, and everybody will have their own show. We have the Hatchet Chronicles. I also have the Sunday morning worship with Minister T. Hatchett will be on Roku, and I also am doing a Soul Food Sunday program. And I have to give you flowers. Let me give you your flowers because you have found you just do your gift so well. So Eunice here she just one day said, I'm gonna do this. And she just did it, and she does it so well and so flawlessly. April was like, yeah, we need her on the show too. So she will have her program too on the station. Because you are just absolutely, you have just a natural, from day one, you just came out and it just was like, here.
Good. Well, I'm glad you guys enjoy it. And I thank April for considering me and considering an interview with the Be in rotation on her on her television station. I'm excited. I think we're going to be airing in around.
We're going to probably around April. I think she has most of her programming, but to be on the safe side, I think what she said April. I think we're going to be doing something in January, getting some things out there, or starting to record in January. For those who haven't started recording or anything, they might be starting in January. But April, I think, is when we really hit the air.
Well, I can't wait, and I'm excited, and I'm thanking everybody for their support, for supporting us. And as you stated earlier, the power of God, He put all this together, and it's just a wonderful thing to be with like-minded people and people that don't mind supporting you. don't know me from Adams, whatever, but don't mind supporting you. So I thank God for allowing someone to see the God in me, or to see the God in you, to see the God in this whole thing in April, and even blessing her with this venture, and she, being put in place to bring us along. And I do appreciate that, April. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. So everybody, so listen, we're going to close out, but next week I'll be back for an interview with a jazz artist. I can't wait, because he's some kinfolk to me. So, and I absolutely love all of his music. If there's nothing that he has made that I'm like, I don't like that. I love everything he does. And I know you guys are going to love him too. Please come back next week. You're going to join me for an interview with Urban Thorpe. We're going to talk about his EP that he have coming out. And again, all jazz and rap. It's all infused. It's nice. God gifted musician. Y'all are going to love it. So that's next Tuesday, live on Facebook and live on YouTube at 8:00 p.m. And yeah. So thank you again, Minister Terry, for talking to us about the power of God. And thank you for sharing her book. Again, if you want to purchase her book, you need to check her out on untappedtalentrecords.com, and you can get a book for $15.99 plus $3 shipping and handling. You're definitely going to be blessed by this booklet. It's going to very much surprise you. A lot that she dealt with, and then how she got through it all, based on the power of God. So we appreciate that. And thank you again to our sponsors. And thank you to everybody for tuning in tonight. And I tell you, I always end up missing. I hate missing people's comments, so please forgive me. Yep. Thank you, Nisi and daughter. Okay. God bless. Thank you so much. And I'm going to go over to Facebook one more time. Make sure I didn't miss anybody. All right. And
I forgot to say the Mixtape Mondays program.
I just saw that too. Okay.
Look, we sorry. My husband is doing a Mixtape Mondays program on the on Roku on the station too.
Okay, cool. Yep. Mixtape Mondays. And then again, I'm telling you, I'm excited for what, God is doing in all of our lives. I really am. And I'm more of a low-key person. Like, I'm super excited, but I don't really kind of like show it, because I'm like, okay, just take a breath, take it 5 minutes at a time. Like, is this really happening? Yep, it is happening. And I'm like, okay, whoo, nobody but God. So I know that we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna have a great time on Roku. And thank you again, April, for everything. Thank you so much. So, all right, guys. So we're going to close out, and thank you so much. Minister T, I always ask my guests to hold on. I'm going to close out the broadcast, but just hold on for a second. And thank you again for tuning in to an interview with, and we'll be back next Tuesday. Y'all take care. God bless and stay safe.